Hello and welcome to the Peak Endurance Podcast. This is episode 137 and it is an interview with myself and Ron because I will be asking Ron questions. I recently completed a 251.5, can't forget that, kilometre run from Mampulla, Burke Street on Mampulla to Burke Street in Melbourne City to raise funds for Red Nose Day in memory of my nephew Jesse. And Ron obviously was helping me. He was crew and course designer and pacer, basically a jack of all trades. And so I thought it'd be interesting to ask Ron some questions too, because as much as it's interesting to ask me questions, it wouldn't be possible to do a run like this without Ron doing his bit too. So, because as you know, you may have seen me posting on Facebook, ultra running, although it seems like an individual sport, is actually a team effort. And of course, there were other people in the team, Stephen Smith, who's from Performance Plus PTing and Massage, brilliant to have him along. Then there was Scott Beams, an awesome pacer, as always, full of hilarious stories and just very good at distracting me.
Very loud, and he's always good to know exactly where you are on the course because you can hear him from a long way away.
Yeah. And then of course I had Nikki helping me, and she's such a wealth of knowledge when it comes to these super long distances because I'm still relatively new at them. And also David, who is same, you know. So it was great to have them along helping too. So it was really, once again, just like the previous race, FKT, it's a team effort, slightly different team. This time, the people who were still there were Ron, Stephen, and Scott. Other people couldn't make it, you know, and that's fine. It's a huge commitment to do this sort of thing, so, to help out. So I really appreciate the people who did help out. And I thought just for ease, it would just be Ron and I in this podcast, as much as I'm sure the others have some, you know, great stories to add. Probably can't all fit on the screen.
No.
So, all right. So I also put it out there to have questions. So Ron's written those down, people that responded with questions, but you've also thought up some of your own. Now, first of all, in regards to the course, what motivated you to design that course? Where did you get the idea of like Burke Street to Burke Street? I mean, I thought it was a great idea. It just sounds cool.
The idea initially popped up a couple of years ago. It was just a discussion during one of the Oscar's hut-to-hut planning sessions between Chris and Andy. And I can't remember whether I was a part of the conversation or I was just overhearing, but Chris suggested that they should do this run just as a fun thing to do one weekend. I'm pretty sure at the time I thought, what a stupid idea to have a fun time running from Mampulla to the city. So, and that was the last I thought of it for a long time. And it wasn't until we started to, you know, discuss, you and I had started to discuss what would be the next, you know, adventure that we could have.
Actually, I'm pretty sure we didn't discuss. You just came to me with
after
this
the Seven Peaks FKT. We were looking for something else to do. Use silly, you know.
I don't see this is the bit I don't remember.
You know, stupidly asked me, you know, what could we do next? Because we couldn't, you know, race.
Yeah.
You know, what else could we do between now and you know, the next races?
Yeah.
And this popped into my head as a, you know, as a memory.
Yeah.
So then from there on, I was like, well, you know, what would be the best way to get from Mampulla to the city? I had two different ways in mind. One was the way that we actually used, which was down through Jamison to Warburton and then along the rail trail into the city. The other idea was to follow the Great Victorian Bike Track, the rail trail, which travels from Mansfield through to Yea and onwards.
That would have been a lot longer.
It was a lot. Well, it was probably about 30 kilometres longer, but it also pretty much meant that to get from there to the city, you had to follow, you know, run along a lot of main roads.
Okay.
Which presented a few issues and didn't look like a lot of fun. So, you know, in the back of my mind when I was planning the course was to keep you off the main roads as much as I could, you know.
Now, when we were at GSR on the weekend, Kathy Mack asked why we chose to go down Western Ridge?
Northwest
Ridge.
Yep.
Off Bulla. Can you explain your thoughts on that? Because that's quite it's amongst those who've ever tried it. And Kathy asked, because it is such a treacherous trail, why did you choose that one?
There were two reasons. First of all, it was the most direct route off the mountain heading towards Jamison. The other option would have been Klingsborn down the mountain to the entry gate. But then it would have been considerably longer.
Yeah.
And it would have meant that you had to run along the main road to get away from Bulla.
Yeah.
So once again, trying to keep you off the main roads was my main consideration.
Yeah.
Plus, also, I didn't actually know how gnarly the Northwest Spur was actually going to be.
Yeah, and Ron and I, we recce'd it about 2 weeks before the actual run, and we freaked out because it was really sketchy.
Yep.
And at that time, because it was even colder, it was icy, which made it even worse because there's a bit of a scramble through some sections, which isn't too bad if you're with other people, but we knew I'd be doing it on my own. So that was one of our concerns as well, wasn't it?
Yes, it was. So, yeah, for that very reason, we decided to start the run a little bit early to give you a little bit more time to clear that.
So I wouldn't feel rushed and under pressure to go fast through that section. I just took it really easy because it was a little bit dodgy on your own. And we had made sure that there was some mobile reception so that once I was through it, I could message you and say that I was fine and through it. And then you could leave the Bulla Summit car park and head on down to the first aid station.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we had a couple of in the preparation of the course, we had a couple of issues. First and foremost is creating a course on a computer as opposed to actually running it in reality can be very different things. A lot of the mapping isn't always accurate. The computer shows roads where there aren't actually roads. It shows tracks that end up having big gates on them that you can't get through.
Yeah.
It shows roads going through private property.
Yeah, which it shows it as not private property.
As not private property. And
normally we would do recce runs for a couple of months and sort this sort of stuff out. But of course, Melbourne being the lockdown capital of the universe, we were in lockdown and couldn't get out until about 2 weeks before, only 1 week, but we kind of pushed the envelope on that one because we kind of had to just for safety's sake. And find that, there were on the fly, we had to make some course changes, didn't we?
We did, yeah.
And they added extra distance because it was originally meant to be about 243.
That's right.
To 245, give or take, because like you said, the computer's not always accurate.
Yeah, so we found that one road actually had a big do not enter private property sign on it. So we had to go around that, which also included an extra river crossing.
Yeah, which was quite a, may I say, sketchy river crossing too. It was really trying to rip me off my feet. And it was really deep, like up to the bottom of my T-shirt level. And even you, and, being male, you tend to be a bit stronger.
Plus, I was a bit taller. So
yeah, a bit taller. Even you were struggling through it. And so it was tough going. And all that sort of stuff really tires you out and takes it out of you, not just physically, but the mental concentration required. And so some of the portions that I did on my own, well, some of them we hadn't recce'd. We kind of figured it would be all right, but I had to do them on my own and some during the night with not, 100% recce confidence.
That's right. Some of the tracks we were only able to park at one end.
Have a look at it,
and then go around to the other end and have a look at it and just hope that it met up in the middle.
And hope that it did what the map said it would do.
That's right.
And which it did, but once again, maps not being accurate, there was way more elevation than we expected, which really took it out of my legs early on because I had been expecting and training for a much flatter course. And of course, as much as I have the Dandenongs, or we have the Dandenongs here, to train in even during lockdown, it just doesn't have the steepness.
It doesn't, no.
And the really hard underfoot like here it's quite soft underfoot at the Dandies. There it was really hard, like hard clay underfoot, and much harder on my legs, which led to other problems later, which we will get to.
So just let us know how you felt as the run progressed. Did you have any niggles that popped up? Did you have any doubts in your head as the run progressed? What was the way you were thinking, and how were you feeling as the run progressed?
Well, I mean, initially I was feeling really good. I put these socks on there, the socks I wore in the last FKT, and I've worn them a couple of times since, and I'd only worn them for half the other run, and they're like a double layer sock, and they felt good at first, but then it felt like the seam of the sock was rubbing on my big toe. And at first I thought, I'm just being overly sensitive and paranoid, but one should always listen, and that's okay to be overly sensitive and paranoid. Change it. I wish I'd changed it earlier, because that's led to a lot of problems with, like the toe, I can still feel it now, and that's a week later, and it's basically the nail is just floating in this blister disgustingness. So that was hurting me kind of almost from the start. Like once I got through the section towards Timbertop, that's when I probably could start feeling it more. But like I alluded to earlier, I just find all those really steep climbs, and it wasn't just the steep climbs, it was in the corresponding really steep, pinchy downhills, which, I think was really working my hamstrings as well, although we tend to think of running downhill as being quad centric, but when it's that steep and you've got the brakes on the whole time, that's really the hamstrings coming into play. And for me, it was with the uphill and the downhill, between the hamstring and the calf, that whole section there got really tight and really painful, and made running later on excruciating, would be the word I would use for it, including my feet being almost beyond excruciating. But I mean, I know, even though I may, during a run, I say, I don't know if I can do this, which I think every runner gets to, but deep inside, I always know I will finish it. And I knew I would finish it. It's just when I say that, it means I really don't want to, because it's hurting so much, and almost waiting for someone to go, oh, that's all right, you don't have to do it. But thankfully, no one said that.
I don't think I said that. So.
No. And Nikki certainly didn't. She was like, you'll be right. Keep going, as she should, as any good pacer and crew member should. And like David was, you're looking really strong and really good, and which I know is a big lie, but it still helps. And so I was in the Seven Peaks one, I felt nauseous early on. This one, not so early on. This one, I just felt physical pain early on. And I think it's because, in spite of my training being really general, like I was doing very generalized training before this, because we didn't even actually decide to do it until about 3.5 weeks before we did it. So my training was never specific to this. I was doing more flat, thinking that if I do it, I'll be ready because there's more flat. But I didn't do enough hills. I really needed more hills. But that's because we hadn't recce'd it. I didn't realize it was so hilly. And I just feel that my training wasn't specific enough, but that is not an issue with the training per se. It's an issue with the not knowing what the course was like.
Yeah. Yep. So one of the more difficult parts of the run was going over Mount Terrible, which is just outside of Jamison. So you'd been through Jamison.
Yeah.
You'd had a bite to eat because it was around dinner time.
Yeah, I had the world's worst lasagna. Yep. I was going to say best, and then I thought, no,
it wasn't that great.
It was terrible. But I mean, you tried. I said I'd love lasagna, and it wasn't your fault.
Unfortunately,
yeah.
There's not a lot to choose from in Jamison.
No,
especially at night time.
Yeah.
And then you took off up over Mount Terrible. So do you want to tell us a little bit about your experiences up there? Because that you were still on your own at that stage.
Yeah. So I headed off up Mount Terrible, which we had done that climb, and it was exactly as I remembered. Only we had the Avenza map, And what you had mapped was a little bit different to what we had done when we did it in the recce.
Yeah.
So I got a little bit confused at one section and backtracked, and I could have stuck with the way I'd gone, but, what's an extra K amongst 250 odd? So I was freaking out about that. And then because, of course, I'm on my own, I didn't have mobile reception at that point, not until I got to the top. But even if I had, you didn't. So I was literally on my own with no way of communicating with my crew. So I was just hoping and praying that I would get to the top. And eventually I did, of course. And I messaged you from there because I had 4 bars of 4G. But obviously I could see it didn't go through because you had no reception.
No.
Anyway, and I was feeling pretty good. It wasn't that cold. Last time we'd been at my top of Mount Terrible, it was freezing. And it was like, wow, I'm still in my T-shirt. It's really mild. Things are going really well. Things are great. And that's when it all kind of went to shit because the weather rolled in and the fog was so bad. I could barely see, this far in front of me, like, a hand's width in front of me. I couldn't tell if the grind was going up or down or flat. I could really only tell by the way my body moved, which was quite scary when you hit a downhill section. And some of them were really steep and really sketchy. And that's what I also think hurt my hamstrings more, because I would sometimes come into a big slide or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And not only that, but I couldn't see the trail. So I'd think I'm on the trail, and next thing I look down at my feet and I'm off in the scrub, because of course I couldn't see where the trail actually went.
Yep.
And once again, I'm on my own and with no means of communicating, and it was pretty scary. So I just slowed right down. I basically didn't have a choice, quite frankly, and just focused on checking my phone all the time, making sure my dot was on the line, because clearly, Avenza works regardless of anything.
Yeah.
And that was just my focus, just keeping that dot on the line. And then I eventually came to Hope Track. And that gave me some hope.
Yes.
So I rolled down that, and that just took even longer than I ever remember it, because we did recce that little bit as well.
Yes, and it didn't actually at the time didn't take.
No, it was like, wow, this is so short. Yeah, no, who would have thought 2 kilometers could last 10 kilometers?
Yes.
But I
and
found,
of course by then the rain had come in as well.
Yeah, so the rain was coming, so the downhill bits were even worse, and rain on rock is not the most friendly of surfaces.
Mm-hmm.
Certainly not on your toes either, as you're trying to save them. So then I went down that hill and met up with you guys again.
Yes.
And I can tell you the relief was very great.
Yeah, so we had once Isabel went up, started going up towards Mount Terrible, myself and Steve had to then drive around the mountain range, which was about an hour and a half drive to do 50 kilometers. It was a windy dirt 4-wheel drive track,
which you said was the worst part of the whole thing for you too.
Yeah, because it was the middle of the night. I was getting tired, and it was, I had at one stage I had 2 deer jump out onto the road in front of me. So it was quite a stressful drive for me as well.
Yeah.
But thankfully I managed to get there, and I got there with about an hour and a half to spare before you were expected in. So I closed my eyes and had a bit of a nap.
Yeah.
Which only lasted half an hour or so.
But just closing your eyes, as we've discussed, and we'll discuss more, closing your eyes has enormous benefits, even if you don't necessarily sleep.
Yeah, that's right. And then the rain set in, and so I was like, oh, now I've got to get all the stuff out of the car ready for you to come in the rain. So I started slowly doing that, and then Scott was there as well. So I had Steve and Scott there to keep me company.
Yeah.
And before we knew it, we saw the head torch coming down the hill.
Yeah. So that was a good moment, and I had some coffee and some food. I can't really remember overly.
I think you had porridge.
Oh yeah, porridge.
Yes.
It's quite interesting because in the 7 Peaks FKT, I pretty much lived on that porridge. So for this one, I bought bags of oats, 2-minute oats, and a huge jar of peanut butter, bottles of maple syrup, and didn't eat any of it.
You had one cupful, and
it was gross and horrible, and who in God's name would want to eat that? So all the things that I ate in the previous FKT really didn't serve me well.
Well, that takes us nicely onto your fueling strategy.
Yeah.
What going into it, did we, anticipate that you were going to eat, and what did you actually eat?
Well, last time I wrote down a very detailed fueling strategy, which got thrown out the window after about 20 Ks. And we had all this pre-packaged food and everything, and it was just completely pointless. So this time I said, I'm not doing that because it's too hard with this distance of a run to guess what I'm going to feel like. You just can't. So we just had a variety of things. We bought ahead of time some chicken, which, the old Woolies chicken, thought it would go down a treat
last time.
But the thing is, last time it was warm. This time it had been in the fridge and it was cold and it was dry. It's different. When you're cold, you want something warm. And when it's warm, it's so soft and oozy and yummy. Whereas when it's cold, it's kind of congealed, dry and, gross. So tried the chicken, nah. Tried the noodles and pasta that we did last time and with the sauce and everything, nah, couldn't eat it. And I would have a mouthful and it would make me feel like my body was going to be sick everywhere. And so 2-minute noodles went down better, quite good this time. And what else? Oh, and you bought a and I had the gnocchi.
Yeah. It was a bit spicy, but
it was a bit spicy because of the olives. But I forced myself. The best thing we had was the chicken and salad sandwich from the Merry Jig Hotel.
That's right.
That was really good. Yeah. Chicken and avocado and salad. That we should have had more of them.
I should have bought 2.
Yep. And then 2-minute noodles. Then you bought a butter chicken.
Oh yes,
with coconut, with the world's worst coconut rice. Coconut rice is meant to be cooked with coconut milk. What they did for this coconut rice was cook the rice dry and hard and horrible and shove a few flakes of coconut in it. So to get stuck in your teeth and your lungs when you're trying to run and eat.
Yes.
So that didn't go down a treat.
No.
But I mixed the butter chicken sauce in that. But the naan bread and the butter chicken was really, really good. Yep. And then the surprise winner
of the whole run
was a food which I normally avoid like the plague, was McDonald's and the egg and bacon McMuffin. I had 2 of those and just shoved them in hygienically in my pocket and would nibble on them occasionally with my very clean hands and put it back into my very clean pocket. And it was great. That was really good. And certainly I know with the McDonald's, whatever you call it, thingy, that it was certainly well preserved and would not, give me too many issues because there pretty much wasn't anything
it's pretty bland
real in it.
Yeah, pretty bland and
processed. Very bland. And because it was so dry, I had to drink lots of water to go with it to be able to swallow it down. And I didn't get the tongue and lip issues like I did last time. Admittedly, this was shorter, but I had those lip and tongue issues earlier than this run.
That's right.
I would have had them already, but no, I mean, I got a bit of a sore tongue. You do when you're eating and you're not brushing your teeth and it's just gross. But nothing like last time where I was, you couldn't swallow or couldn't eat.
And those egg and bacon McMuffins actually saw you pretty much from Mount Evelyn all the way into the city.
Yeah, yep. So, they were an absolute godsend. Yeah, they were the best thing. And Stephen was an absolute hero by going and buying me, quickly going to every Macca's he could and buying them up.
We did try the hotcakes.
Yeah, no, they didn't work. I thought the hotcakes would be awesome, but they did not work. Yep. They just sent me straight to the toilet. So, but that's all right. I mean, it's really hard to have a fueling strategy for something this long because you just don't know what your body's going to do. Within the first, 50 Ks, I was eating, Cliff Bars and normal things that you would eat on a run, on a normal long run. And it was fine, like it would be. But then once you start going longer and through meal times and into the night and you're dealing with different weather and stress and all that sort of stuff, and your stomach just completely shuts down and what you think works doesn't, and what you think would never work does. So that's why
what worked last time didn't work this time.
And like when I spoke to Richard Costa, the guy who does all this experimentation on athletes, it can be what my hydration levels were like leading into it, what the weather, it was very humid. So the humidity will change just how my body digests food, which will change what is palatable. And it's just, I mean, I just think it's fascinating. But it just makes it very hard to plan. And that's why we said we were going to keep our options open and that you would go and get stuff. And luckily with this run, we were mostly in more populated areas. Though we say that Warburton needs to up its restaurant game. And,
there was not a lot. There was pretty much all we could get in Warburton after 6 o'clock was pizza.
Yeah, because I really wanted a pad Thai.
Yeah.
But there was no Thai restaurants in Warburton. Like, how does that even happen?
Yeah.
There's like 300 here in Baronia.
Yeah. Warburton let us down terribly as far as food options go.
Yes, yeah. So, and even then, to get the curry, you had to go to Yarra Junction, didn't you?
Yes, I did, yeah. I had to drive into Yarra Junction.
Yeah, so, and even then, a little bit dodge,
yes.
you know. But, you know, beggars can't be choosers in these instances. And I appreciate all the effort you went to. It's not your fault, but yeah.
Yes. Yeah. So I guess the next thing people like to know is, did you sleep throughout the whole, because you were, it took you 51 hours.
I can't remember how much more. But.
Yep. So did you sleep or rest throughout the whole?
Well, our original plan was for me not to sleep at all. Because I figured I'd done 44 hours at GSR without sleeping or resting or doing anything. Mind you, I was in a state of near collapse by the end. But I thought if I did it then, I can do it again. And I didn't need to sleep. What I needed to do was rest just because I just wasn't feeling good. I probably could have pushed through the tiredness. It wasn't the tiredness so much that was a problem. It was just not feeling good. So after coming off Mount Terrible, which was so incredibly stressful for me, I kept going another 18 Ks to the next checkpoint. And it had been so stressful and so overwhelming for me. I just needed time to rest and close my eyes. I didn't particularly need to sleep. So I lay down and I didn't intend to sleep. I mean, I said if I slept, I would, but I said, get me up in half an hour. What I really wanted to do was just close my eyes and relax and just kind of let it go, because I'd been, I think, running that whole section purely on adrenaline, and that's just unsustainable. And you know, everyone knows what it's like when you've had a hit of adrenaline. You get exhausted and you just want to stop and just chill for a while, which is what I did. And then I got up again. I felt so much better. It was if I'd had a sleep, but I didn't. Then the next night when we came out of, when we came into Warby, sort of came down that steep hill, once again, I wasn't sleepy per se and didn't need to sleep, but because my stomach had been really upsetting me, Nikki and I had decided that I should have a rest just to reset, because and I'd stopped eating a while before and was just drinking water to try and sort of clean out my system, just to try to get whatever food, what was upsetting me, which I think, I don't even know what it was, was upsetting me. I think it could have been coffee even by that stage. And just let my stomach have a chance to rest, and then to rest my body, to let my stomach have a chance to rest and reset. And I got back up and I felt so much better in the stomach.
And so that was at about 10 o'clock on the Sunday night.
Yeah, so sorry, it was Sunday morning, not Saturday morning, when I the other one at Stockman's. Yeah. I keep getting confused with what day we started. Yeah, so I did. So that was in total 50 minutes of laying down rest, but no sleep. And I was asked, do I get the twitchy legs? And that's a lot of the reason why I couldn't sleep in the Seven Peaks one, other than the first nap, was because of twitchy legs. This time I didn't get that when I lay down. My legs were fine, which was good, but it was just, I didn't really particularly want to sleep. I just wanted to rest. I almost feel that if I had slept, I wouldn't have wanted to wake up. And I kind of think that's why I didn't want to sleep, because I knew I probably wouldn't want to wake up.
And also it is worth saying that once we left Croydon, you didn't stop again after that. You went,
I didn't want to stop. I couldn't. I just thought I didn't want to sit down again. I didn't want to stop again, and as much as it was great, Stephen would be there ready, do you need a massage? Do you need that? It was just like, I've just got to keep going because I just don't want to stop. The thought of stopping again, it's the starting again that's the hard bit. It's not the stopping that's the hard. That's easy. It's starting again. It's mentally so hard. And I'd been going through, because also my body would cool down, and trying to get the hamstring and calf to warm up again each time would be excruciating, like literally bringing me to tears. So I didn't want to have to go through that every time. So I just said, no, we're just going to keep going and just keep going.
Yeah, so we had Steve with us because I joined you to pace you from Croydon. So we had Steve stopping and doing the
hard yards
there and meeting us with anything we needed.
And he is so good. He always had everything, you know, bacon and egg McMuffins, Coke.
He even had a
pie for you.
Pie for me at in Blackburn.
Yep.
And I remember at that point we because we saw him as we came around the corner, and I stopped and started chewing on my pie, and you said, I'm going to just keep going.
Yeah.
And I said, no worries. I looked, I was talking to Steve, and then I looked up again at one stage and you were off running around the corner. I was like, oh, geez, I better hurry up and eat this pie so I can catch you.
Yeah, I don't think it would have been too hard to catch me. When we say running, we mean shuffling.
Shuffling. It's at, what was that? Probably 230 kilometres in then.
Yeah.
Any kind of shuffle is not too bad.
Yeah, and look, and it was just because I just wanted to get it done. I was at that point, I'll just let this be over soon. But I actually really enjoyed that section from Croydon with you. The sun had come up. It ended up being a beautiful day.
Yeah.
The sun was out. It was warm. Occasionally it was cold, but, and we were chatting, and, Nikki had said to me when I was saying how awful I felt, she was like, you'll come good. Unfortunately, it took 210 Ks to come good, but or more.
Yeah.
But, I did eventually come good, and it was much nicer to end feeling good than to end feeling bad.
Yep. Now, someone on Facebook has asked if you had a pacing strategy.
No. And I know someone also wanted to know if I had a run-walk strategy. And yes, certainly from the start, it was just walk all the hills. And that degenerates into walk whenever you need to, and just run the downhills. And that degenerated into just run whenever I feel I physically can, which wasn't always that often, as we're getting closer and closer and I'm getting in more and more pain. Sometimes I could bust out, like we said, a bit of a shuffle on the downhills. And sometimes I actually felt quite good and thinking, oh my God, I'm at like 230 Ks and I can't believe it. But then half an hour later, I'd say to you, it was coming in like it was I'm surfing because I'm riding different waves constantly, a wave of tiredness, a wave of feeling good, a wave of feeling nauseous. And it would just come in waves and it would keep swapping. And the waves of good would be awesome, but I knew it wouldn't last. So I tried to really enjoy them, but then I'd get hit by the next wave and it'd be like, oh no, not this one. I prefer the other wave. But, I just kept pushing through that, knowing the good wave would come eventually too.
Yeah.
And so, yes, my strategy from the start was to run by feel and walk by feel, but always walk early, because if you go out too hard from the start, it's too much for the body. So I walked all uphills, as in height, using poles. So I would march. I wasn't ambling up them.
Yeah. It's also a bit hard to have a strategy per se because there's so many different terrain.
Yeah.
Where we started from rocky outcrop, skidding down rocks on your backside to four-wheel drive tracks, to rail trails, to just a fairly straight dirt road, and then onto inner city bike tracks. So
and then footpaths.
And footpaths. Into the city,
and like we said, we hadn't put together recce's of all of the course, so we just did what we could.
Yeah. So how did you feel once you got there? Once you got into the city, what kind of emotions and feelings did you go through?
It's funny because it was the same with the Seven Peaks ones. I thought I'd feel this awesome, whoa, this is so amazing, this is so cool. And I did feel that a little bit because at least it was daylight this time. But it's kind of really an underwhelming feeling. It's just oh my God, thank God that's over. But I was happy and I was proud of myself. But even now, it still doesn't almost feel real. Like I don't know how to explain it, but it doesn't feel like it's real. I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, and basically, once we got into the city, it was just life as normal in the city. Lots of people going about their business. There was even a
Sack Dan
Andrews
protest
as we
the top of Burke Street.
Got to the top of Burke Street. Here we were so happy to get to the top of Burke Street, and then all of a sudden they started their chants and
gave me a heart attack.
Yeah, that's right. And then we got into the mall, and people were going about.
And then
their
there's us weirdos, me with my pack on and my poles, and
the poles did get a lot of strange looks as we were making our way through the city.
But they were very necessary to hold me upright. Tell people what would happen at the traffic lights.
Oh yeah, so Isabel, obviously we had to stop and wait for the little green man regularly, and there was myself, Nikki, and Isabel, and we'd stop there, and I'd be standing just behind Isabel because every time she stopped, she'd take 3 shuffles backwards, and I'd just have to put my hand on her back just to stop her from going any further. Once she stopped, she was all right, but she would just always, stop.
I was just a little bit off balance. There's something about running long distances, which I've always had, that when I run long distances, I just lose my balance if I stop. And that's why I prefer to just keep moving as well, because balance is a real issue for me. There's nothing wrong with me other than the usual. But it's just I lose my balance, and that's why in races I've come into aid stations before and been wobbling all over the place, and people want to pull me from races, and there's nothing wrong with me. It does something. It must do something to my inner ears. I don't know, because I cannot balance and I wobble everywhere, and it looks like I'm drunk, but I'm not. Obviously.
No. But it's
drunk on the joy of running.
It can be a bit alarming at first, and then you kind of get used to it.
Yeah.
And so it's been a week, pretty much today, obviously, since the run. So how's your recovery gone? How are you feeling now, and how have you felt in the
Yeah. So someone did ask if I stayed awake, and yes, I kind of wanted to treat it a bit like jet lag and not go to bed straight away. And to be honest, I couldn't, because I was still sort of jacked up in the head, I'd had a lot of caffeine, and there was the excitement of finishing. And so we got home. What did we do? We sat on the couch. I can't even remember.
Yeah, well, we had to unpack the car.
Yeah. Well, you did, I didn't.
And then
because I couldn't actually walk. My feet, I had to crawl up the stairs to get upstairs.
Right. You did. And then by then it was 5 o'clock, and we just.
And I was hungry, and I still wanted that bloody pad thai.
Yes.
So Ron went and got me pad thai and good coconut rice, and put it all down. And here you go, Isabel. And I had about 3 mouthfuls, and went, right. I'm so full. Like, I can't eat another thing.
That's right. But we were early to bed that day.
Yeah. And so then we went to bed, probably 8 o'clock, 8:30.
Yeah.
And then I woke up at about 2, starving to get death, and got up and managed to get myself up the stairs by myself, and opened up all the Thai and ate it cold out of the containers. Not a lot, once again, because for some reason, like we were saying, we don't know why. It's not that the stomach shrunk. It must be inflamed in some way. I would have a little bit and I would get so full. So I had some more Thai at 2 a.m, and then put that back in the fridge and went back to bed, and then got up in the morning and we had eggs on toast.
Yes.
I just was craving protein, which I always do after a big run. I crave protein, which to me is my body's way of trying to repair itself. And I honor that by eating a lot of protein.
Yeah.
But eggs was the easiest, for me to chew and to digest. I couldn't eat anything that would be hard to digest because my poor stomach had gone through enough. And I couldn't drink coffee the next day.
No.
And I'm a coffee addict. Yes. That means I'm on my deathbed if I can't drink coffee. And I literally could not.
Yeah. Our mornings revolve around coffee. Yeah. So without coffee, I don't know what we'd do.
No, I know. Life wouldn't be worth living. And you make me a coffee, and out of guilt, I'll drink a little bit because I thought, you've made me this coffee, and then I just can't drink anymore. But then once again, I thought, no, my body's trying to tell me something. It doesn't want that. So I just poured it out, and but by the next day, all was well with the world because I could drink my coffee again.
Yes.
And once again, there's no problems, no.
Yeah. And how's the body pulled up?
Well, my feet were really sore. I had the hamstring and all that was a bit sore, and that still is tight occasionally. On the Wednesday, I got a massage from Stephen, and he said everything felt really good. And considering I felt pretty good, I was able to put shoes on by Saturday.
Friday.
Was it?
Yeah, it was Friday.
No, I was wearing thongs at check-in at gear check.
Yeah, but that was Thursday.
Oh my God. See, I have no clue.
It was
Friday.
Friday was the day we went for a walk.
Yeah. Okay. So Friday I went for a walk and we went, for a 20-minute walk, and I was like, oh my God, I need to rest. My legs are so sore. But then every day it's just amazing. And I've had naps every day. Today was my first day without a nap because I actually I had to work anyway. Can't really nap in the classroom with all the kids around. God knows I wanted to today with those kids. So I've been napping every day, just eating for Australia.
Mm-hmm.
And that is what has helped me recover so quickly.
Mm-hmm.
Last time I don't think I ate so well after. I was trying to just eat my normal diet, to stick to my normal diet still. But this time I've gone, nah, I'm just going to eat what my body tells me it wants, which is everything.
Mm-hmm.
And this time I did it and I've recovered so much faster. And last time I didn't nap as much because I'm like, oh my God, that's just being lazy napping. But this time I've napped as soon as I've needed it, which might be 9 o'clock in the morning, I've had a nap and it's made all the difference. I'm feeling really good. We went for a walk this afternoon. Tomorrow I'm going to try just a little walk jog just for half an hour, just because I'm sick of sitting on my butt. And my body, once again, it's telling me it wants to move. It doesn't want to do a big run, and I'm not going to do any training per se, but my body wants to move. It feels it's time to move. So I'm, once again, honoring that, and nothing highly exerting, because I think your body, you've really got to get the recovery right. Especially for me, I need to get the recovery right because I've got Barkley in March. And if I mess up this recovery, then I won't be able to train properly for Barkley.
Well, that kind of leads me to my final question. What's next?
Well, Barkley.
Yes.
Barkley Marathon. So, yes, I am back in. So now I have to focus on getting my hill legs back. So really, really strong hill legs. And we've got to work on improving my navigation again. We've had to do this so many times now, it feels like, but and it's been so hard because, of course, in lockdown, you can't go anywhere to do navigation. All the row games have been cancelled, and there won't be any row games now because they don't do them during summer because they don't want people off trail in summer, which is fair enough, the danger of fires and whatnot, and people stuck out God only knows where.
Mm-hmm.
So we're just going to have to do all of that on our own, practice-wise, and just getting ready for Barkley, and then after Barkley is DU. And I'm hoping the training for Barkley will lend itself well for DU, because then, of course, I'll have to recover from whatever happens at Barkley. Who knows what will happen there.
Right. Yeah. Well, have you got anything to add? Anything?
No. Do you have any tips for people crewing or pacing somebody?
I think the biggest one is sleep when you can. There were moments where, I would get to a spot and have half an hour to an hour spare. So although I didn't necessarily sleep, I would just, close my eyes and just rest.
Yeah.
Rest for half an hour. And then, but what I've found is it's much better to get to where you're going first and then rest. Because if you
fall asleep
for too long, you oversleep, then you're not much use to your runner.
Yeah.
Because the worst thing you want to do is miss a meeting spot.
And can I say that you've got the crew attitude nailed. I don't know if I could be as good as you with your patience, as in when I would make my demands of I want this, I want that, or no, you cook me these beautiful meals, and I have one race and I go, nah, can't eat that. And all the work you've done has gone to waste. You just take it in your stride. You're just like, yep, that's okay, no worries. Blah, blah, blah. And that just makes it so much easier for me, because then I don't have to fake things. It means I can really be honest with you, because I know you're not going to get funny with me, which I'm not saying other crews do, but it's easy. You've gone to all this effort for someone and then they don't want it. It's easy to get offended. And I don't know what I would be like. I mean, I hope I would have your patience, but I honestly don't know after, 40 odd hours of pandering to someone's every whim, and then they go, nah, don't want that. It takes a special kind of patience to be able to do that for someone. And I think that's what people need to keep in mind when they're wanting to crew for someone, is you have to be completely selfless. And I don't know. I mean, I'd like to think I could be that selfless, but, I don't know. I've never had to do it for that long.
You just have to recognize why you're there and what the whole point of being there is for,
Yeah.
The whole reason that I was there and Steve was there is to get you through to the end. That was our first and foremost reason. Yeah. So, once you get your head, get into that headspace, then it becomes a lot easier to be patient and to, try different things. And if it doesn't work, we'll move on to the next thing and, try that.
So it didn't annoy you that things wouldn't necessarily?
Not at all. No, not at all. Obviously it made me happy when it did work out. But no, because I just, the whole idea of trying different things and just, because the whole point was trying to get something into you. Yeah. We've got to get you fed. Yeah. It didn't matter what it was, the fact that we hit on the egg McMuffin,
that was Stephen's idea. I suggested the hot cakes, and he said, "Oh, what about a bacon egg McMuffin?" And I went, "Ooh!" And even my stomach went, "Ooh."
That's right.
Yeah, so that was a winner. Yeah, and it's funny, and that's the thing. You got to keep trying, and then you find it.
That's right.
But yeah, both you and Stephen, both incredibly patient with me, incredibly encouraging and supportive, and that's exactly what crew has to be. And like you and Nikki and Scott and David, when you're pacing me, just so supportive and just I mean, it makes me feel really selfish for being in that moment and everyone trying to help me, but I'm also trying to think of the bigger picture of raising funds for Red Nose Day, and it's surely not such a selfish endeavor then. But I think it's, like I said, it's not an individual sport, it's a team sport, because there is no way I could have done that on my own. Absolutely no way. I mean, maybe I'm hoping to apply for this to be an FKT, and I'll do it as solo female supported. And I would be, not amazed, but like, that would be awesome to see someone do it solo, unsupported. Like, I don't understand how someone would do that, quite frankly. That would take a special kind of strength, inner strength, I think, because as it was, that took enough inner strength. Yeah.
Well, as a finish off, let's, why don't you just tell the listeners a little bit about the charity itself and why you did it, and what came of it? Well,
Red Nose Day, obviously, is raising money for SIDS, sudden infant death syndrome. And unfortunately, Red Nose Day doesn't get a lot of support from the government, even though it's incredibly devastating for the families involved. As I said in the video when we started, I can't think of a greater pain than losing a child. And even if you haven't had children, I'm sure you can understand that would be incredibly painful. And to me, I can't think of anything worse ever happening, that pain. So there should be more support for that, because Red Nose Day then provides support for those parents and families who desperately need help and that support. And of course, with COVID, normally they would be selling things for Red Nose Days and getting out there amongst the public, but they couldn't do that. They were trying to sell online, and it just doesn't work as well. So their funds have been way down because of COVID. And my sister's son died of SIDS, Jesse, when he was only 3 months old. And it was devastating for her and her family. And I know Red Nose Day really helped them so much. So, I wanted to give to Red Nose Day to help and to honour Jesse and his life as short as it was, and also my sister's family, and how strong they were to get through that. And like I said, when I started my run, yeah, I'll be in pain during the run. I knew I would be, and I certainly did that. But once again, that pain ended, and I could move on and move forward quite easily. Whereas that emotional pain is much harder to deal with, and families really need the support of Red Nose Days to help them get through it. So my goal was $2,000. I think we're currently at about $2,500, which is absolutely awesome. I'd love it if we could get to 3,000 or more. So I will put a link to the charity. Jessie's Run for Red Nose Day is the page that I have created, and anything you can donate, like the smallest donation, every little bit adds and helps and makes a difference to those families in need.
Well, I think you did a great job, and you've done the memory of Jessie really proud, and everyone should be really proud of what you've done.
All right. Well, thank you very much, and thank you for joining us today on the podcast.
Thank you.